Okay, so here's an interesting one, and I'm sure this is all about it's objective. Everybody has their opinions, right? This photographer suggests overexpose skin tones just a little bit. It says, I personally overexpose my skin tones by about 1/3 to a half stop, and the reason is that it tends to make your subject's skin more glowy and beautiful, and in return, less retouching is needed. So you don't have to go by exactly what your meter says, go by what looks great. So if you're taking a picture of someone, let's say out, in the sunshine on the beach or something, overexpose their skin just a little bit is what they're saying by a half or a third of a stop, and it makes their skin kind of glow a little. What are your
Hmm.
thoughts on that?
Well, that's the first time I've heard that before.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm,
have
I'm
some
not going
too.
to say
You can see the examples.
I'm not going to say that they're wrong, but
Yeah, that's why I was saying this is objective.
I will
Everybody has,
absolutely caution novice photographers to
yeah,
to really tread carefully when it comes to that.
to overexposing anything. Yeah,
Yeah, to overexposing anything. A lot of the times, once you blow those highlights out, there's no getting them back.
and about it. Yeah,
And there is a lot of times nothing worse than blowing out the skin tones on your subject because you're going to lose a lot of detail there, and you're not getting that back.
right.
So it can really depend on not only the subject, but the environment that they're in, and also the actual skin tone of the subject. If you have a fairer skin person or a darker skin person,
That would matter. Yeah,
it's going to matter drastically. If you're taking pictures of a redheaded, light-skinned female
maybe don't do
on the
this.
beach, you could end up making her look like she's glowing.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're taking a picture of somebody who has a more ethnic skin tone, darker skin tones and things like that, you could end up going completely in the opposite direction.
So
So
this is definitely not for the more novice
it's
photographer, the
definitely
same
not for
concept.
it's going to be something that I would say don't mess with that until you're very experienced and you know what you're doing. There's better ways to get softer skin tones that are non-destructive, and this is
Right.
we've talked about this a couple
Yeah,
days
you want to
ago.
explain a little bit about
You
that?
have what's called a destructive workflow and a non-destructive
Right.
workflow, and a lot of the times, for me personally, I work in as a non-destructive workflow as I possibly can, meaning I don't want to do anything to the photo that I can't possibly alter in post, meaning like we were talking about that. I think that day we were talking about graduated neutral density filters.
Yeah.
There are so many ways that you can achieve the graduated neutral density filter look in post processing or through bracketing that, in my opinion, graduated neutral density filters are a thing of the past as far as I'm concerned. I have no desire to own or ever use a graduated neutral density filter. And I'm sure that people will have their own opinions on that, especially if you're a cranky old film guy, because a lot of those guys swear by them because they were brought up using them. But the problem with that is once you use that, there's no going back. You can't change that after the fact. Whereas if I was to just bracket and do a multiple exposure and do luminosity blending or things like that, I can achieve the exact same or better look in post processing by doing it after the fact versus doing it beforehand. So be very careful how destructive you make your workflow.